Revelation 1764. From the 4th of January 1941. Life, activity. Inactivity, lifelessness. To live is to be continually active. The state of inactivity is, as it were, a persistence in lifelessness. It is something will-less, bound, it is a standstill of activity, and all these are the signs of death. Everything that lives, that is active, brings about something new, in that what is does not remain in the same state, but is constantly changing, otherwise it could not be called life, while what is dead remains unchanged. However, that which appears dead can also harbor an inner life, that is, a force can be inherent in it which nevertheless drives the apparently lifeless into activity. Thus only the outer form can be called lifeless as long as it is not admitted to activity, while the force, the spiritual in the form, is willing to be active because it no longer likes being inactive. This will of the dead, which desires to live, is like the awakening from deepest night. And this becomes outwardly noticeable in almost imperceptible changes which now come to light. Life begins in that the previous form transforms itself, that is, becomes active in itself. The activity of such seemingly lifeless forms is not recognizable to the eye because it initially takes an infinitely long time, hence the form is regarded as lifeless. However, once the will of the spiritual was turned towards activity in this form, the dead state is also overcome, and every second now brings about changes, albeit the most minimal ones. And the life that thus begins is also the beginning of the redemption of the spiritual from the form. For to be active also means to serve. It means to carry out something that corresponds to divine will, and divine will has assigned a meaning and purpose to every activity. And if the purpose is fulfilled, this is a service. Consequently, what wants to live must be active, thus serve. If, however, the will to serve is completely lacking, then we can only speak of something dead, for then the beingness in the form still remains in resistance. It cannot decide to serve, it is will-less, inactive, thus completely lifeless, although the form contains spiritual in itself, which however is still full of rebellion against the power that has determined it to serve. This spiritual essence is still devoted to God's adversary and he prevents it from serving. Therefore God also deprives it of all strength to be active because this activity would again only apply to God's adversary. And the entity will not be released from its lifeless state until it has expressed its will to be active in service. Only then will the external form be loosened, that is, it can change within itself, and there is the possibility that it will completely transform itself after an inconceivably long time and that this will now also be visible to people, so that life can now also be recognized externally. The form can therefore no longer be called lifeless, since it now testifies to constant activity, thus to life. Amen.